You guys have just been awarded a special BAFTA award for Horrible Histories. That is the right response. Thank you for joining us. I think actually while I was introducing this panel, I did have someone going right in front of me. Oh, hey! This is like a pantomime. Where is Larry? Here he is! Mr. Laurence Rickard! That's a man who got 2 entrances.
Easy done.
Gentlemen, welcome. It's so nice to see you guys again. We had you guys here for your previous book, actually, and now you're back again. Also, last time, season 5 hadn't finished yet. We were midway through, and now that's done. The show has come to its conclusion. How are you guys in the wake of this? Oh, I've started on a rough note, I'll give you that.
It is, we were just literally saying about 2 minutes ago, it's still odd, and you sort of get to that time of year and you start gearing up for it. It's strange. It was a weird decision anyway, because we were it was a case of, we talked about it like being what was best for the child. And as a parents, we were like, let's just do this forever. It's really good fun. But we didn't want to end up compromising on the quality or retreading old ground. So it sort of felt like the time was right. But yeah, it gets to this time of year and you kind of start gearing up to go and mess around in a big house for a while and then go, no, you can't.
Yeah, you obviously miss the people. Weirdly miss the place as well. There's a sort of a feeling like we ought to be there from January to March. It's unrealistic if you're not making a TV programme to just move into a stately home for 3 months.
I'm going to try and work a bunch of really subtle segues into this interview. Watch this. So you guys have a lot of history there. You guys have just been awarded a special BAFTA award for Horrible Histories. That is the right response. Thank you to my friend Nomi for also informing me of that, by the way, because that was such an important thing to kick off. Before we get into your lovely new book, we have to talk about this. How must that feel for you guys?
It's lovely. I hope we get an invitation. It's Horrible Histories that's won the show. We obviously were part of that. That's won the award, that we were a part of that. And yeah, it never fails to amaze me. One of my brothers is a teacher. And it's an incredible thing that just by sort of mucking around, I get to have the accolade of having apparently taught a whole generation while he labours away daily. Yeah, it's an amazing thing. It still feels an extraordinary privilege to have been part of something that sort of became part of the cultural sort of furniture.
Yeah, and really bizarre. You kind of just about got used to the fact that every now and then kids would come up to you and go, we like history because of you. And then 15 years slowly passes and you don't really realise it. And then it went through people going, we're doing history at university because of you. And now it's like, I'm a history teacher.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my God, I feel so old. And we grew up watching that show and now they're all proper human beings. It's kind of terrifying.
Gosh, it's amazing. You guys have fixed GCSEs across the country simply by making that show. Well, congratulations on that
We've
award.
Basically been the sort of hangover cure for teachers for years, where they get to tie one on the night before, pop a Horrible Histories episode on and not teach for half an hour.
It was brilliant for me because our appreciation of the show was sort of not academic, but first and with my writer's hat on, obviously I was sort of going, this needs to be historically accurate and this needs to be funny. But once we were performing it, you were just like, what's the funniest version you can do? What's the funniest voice? And the kind of educational side you slightly forget about. And so it's been really interesting now, my son's 6. And he, a few months ago, came home from school and went, you're on the telly! Because we kind of not slightly insulated him from it because he thinks I'm weird enough without that. Yeah, suddenly, they'd sort of played the Kings and Queens song. And so seeing it, and overnight, he knew the Kings and Queens of England in order. And I was, oh my God, it works!
Wow. Yeah. You guys have done more than revision could ever do. I mean, maybe I'm showing my age here, but when you guys were saying that hangover cure, I was instantly taken back to the teacher wheeling in the big TV. It had the straps over the top on the metal frame, and that's you guys being shown on that. Be quiet, watch Horrible Histories.
Stop laughing so loud.
Look at the funny man.
I'm about to do another segue. Hop on. At school, you read books. So, by the way, this is out yesterday. Has anyone already got their hands on a copy? Ooh, a few dedicated folks have managed to get theirs. Excellent. Now, this is the second book that you guys put out, the Button House Chronicles, or Archives, pardon. That was the last one that you guys put out. That's what we did the panel for now. But now we have Ghosts Brought to Life, calling all Ghosts fans the ultimate celebration of the BBC sitcom, exploring the making of this comedy classic. And you guys go through some amazing stuff through this because we get to learn about the unaired pilot. We get to learn about the real Button House. There's loads of really amazing things, unpublished photos. So for fans, this is a really big deal, isn't it?
In some ways, it was sort of the obvious book to do, but we were so excited about the idea of writing more things in the characters' voices that we did the Button House Archives first. But this is a sort of a really, really kind of complete look at the making of the show, as you say, going all the way back to a sort of mini pilot that we made, which was very different in many ways to the show that we ended up making.
Well, I've written a bunch of notes about this because I have, over the last 3 days, been going through this book cover to cover to sort of dig up some of the golden nuggets that you guys throw out there. But I also remember from our last conversation, when I was doing some of the back research on how the show came to be, when you guys were midway through Yonderland, you guys were sort of umming and erring about what you guys called the haunted hotel idea.
Yes.
But apparently, internally, you guys couldn't figure out what the jeopardy was for the characters, which is why you sort of put it off for a bit.
Yeah.
And I think you said in the book, somewhere around midway through 2016, an email came up going, are we doing this or what?
Yeah, it began with brainstorming just any ideas that we could think of for a new thing to do. And the first thing we sort of rule out is anything modern dress, because it just feels like it would be really disappointing for our fans to see us.
Look how disappointing we are.
In an office wearing trousers and shirts.
Well, Simon won't wear trousers,
No,
famously.
true. So we're sort of in a good, the blank canvas can be a real problem because you can think of anything, so you think of nothing. So in a way, it's good to have those restrictions, but we were looking for an idea that would involve a sort of dressing up box feel like all of our other stuff had, and that would allow us to play multiple characters, which was originally the thinking. And in the end, that, did happen. But in its infancy, the idea was we would be playing all these different ghosts throughout the show, and then that sort of changed over time. But
Well, people now often sort of go, how come you play Humphrey? Actually, most of them go, oh, you're the caveman as well. But then once we've had that, they go, how come you play two characters and all the others? And I was like, they are sharper than me. And quite quickly went, I might just play one.
But also, your two involve quite intensive prosthetics as well, or special effects.
Yeah.
So you took the heavy lifting.
Yeah, I mean, I have no complaint. I do quite enjoy that side of telly and all the, I like prosthetics, I like special effects. So, if it's going to go to someone, better to go to someone like that than, say, Simon, who, if you go to Simon, we've thought for this one you might have a moustache. You go, what? No. So, it's a good fit.
Well, it's interesting that you brought up some of the characters because I was going through your notes from an early meeting are all on some of those first pages talking about it. And it's so interesting seeing how different the show that we now know and love is to what is written there. For instance, Humphrey is beheaded Earl. Totally different person. And Georgian romantic poet who is melodramatic about everything and was shot in a duel over a girl.
Yeah, that was an early...
That has persisted.
That one stuck.
Yeah, that stuck.
That
It completely stuck. But also, you mentioned other ghost ideas that you guys had. So there was Nazi bombers who fell out over a girl just before they were shot down. And then Ancient William, who is in fact a 6-year-old boy.
Yes.
These are brilliant. So, why didn't they make what you ended up doing? Is that just trimming it down?
in a way, that's quite a good illustration of how no idea is wholly wasted, because they sort of didn't make it, but then they show up in other forms. Like, there's a scene in, I can't remember if it's episode 1 or 2, where, it's the last episode of series 1, where they go house hunting, and they're trying to find a place that isn't haunted, and there are 2 Nazi bombers who are floating outside the window of a flat that they go to see. So these ideas sort of do often end up just resurfacing in just the right place. And then there's things like Ancient William.
I really like Ancient William, I'm sorry.
We had this idea that the wisest one would be the one who's been there the longest, regardless of their age. And so that was the idea, was it would be a child who was wiser than everyone else. And then we realized if we were lucky enough to get 2 or 3 series, a child will grow up, and we can't deal with that in the Ghost rules. You know, you can brush out my grey hairs, but you can't stop a child from aging.
But I guess that sort of ended up going to Robin in a way,
exactly,
didn't it?
Yeah. So the sort of the idea of it still sort of emerged in a different form.
And ironically, I don't age. So it was amazing casting, really. All the other guys, you know, each year just brushing out some grey hairs, a little bit more filler. Me, they were like, each series, makeup took a little longer because they're like, this guy's getting younger.
We did used to joke that if we carried on for sort of 20 years, Larry and Martha would just have less and less makeup. And I would be having extreme amounts.
Yeah. If
prosthetics.
finally we'd have the last laugh. Martha's makeup was because me and Martha would arrive before anyone else on set. And then we'd normally finish last because we'd have to then have all the makeup taken off. And so most people in the crew never they'd see me because I'd obviously changed characters. But Martha, they would never see not in makeup. And I remember at the end of series 1, a couple of the crew were like, so how did you start working with that old lady? And had no idea that she was in makeup. We're just like, it's really sweet. You know, one of them's like 60.
Yeah. They're just the rap party going, who's that? Who's that woman?
She's in the cast.
What's she got to do with the show? I never saw her.
Interestingly that you bring up Mary, because I was looking at the photo of you guys from this pilot, where quite a lot of it's still quite similar. Some of the costumes are the same, but some are quite different. Matthew, you have extraordinary hair in this one. That's quite different. You've got long, flowing locks that didn't make it to the final thing. Why the change?
I think the thinking in the pilot was we were focused on the sort of romanticness of him and less on the kind of period truth. And then when we came to make the show, we were a little bit more focused on, okay, he's Regency era, no one had long hair like that. It just wasn't.
Did look good though.
I mean, you know, it was a vibe.
It's kind of heartthrobby, to be honest, when you guys see it. In fact, I might be able to get the picture up. No, I'll save it for when people can buy it. But it is a good picture, to be fair. I could sort of imagine you in the actual show sort of flipping the hair and saying something melodramatic, you know?
It was the same performance in a different wig. It didn't really change.
I mean, that, to be fair, in like the development phase, was only like 2 or 3 characters who basically from day one were like, oh, it's that then.
Yeah.
And he was really, really early on. The captain was quite early.
Yeah.
And Pat, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then the others sort of came on board. But yeah, from really early on, you're like, I think we should play a romantic poet who's so sort of loved up and earnest that he's a bit of a knob.
Yeah.
And we're like, yep, that'll work.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
I think, Julian was an early idea as well, if I recall, because I think one of the first conversations was about the idea that ghosts sort of appear in the form in which they died. So we just immediately kind of riffed a bunch of jokes, really, about what would be the worst or most embarrassing situation to find yourself in for eternity, because that's how you died. And a politician dying in some sort of...
Well, the original incarnation with him, which we illustrated on the pitch, he's in full bondage gear with a ball gag in his mouth.
Yeah.
And quite rightly, we subtly changed that for the series.
It was originally going to be a fully sort of post-Watershed kind of adult show, and then it just felt a shame to sort of rule out a swathe of the public who could hopefully enjoy it.
So you reined it back a
So
bit.
we reined it in a bit. I remember there was a very panicked, then the decision was pre-Watershed, it will be a family audience, and then after the first read-through for the series, there was a panicked compliance meeting where some legal people had decided that you can't see a stump of a decapitated ghost's neck. Took a while.
Yeah.
And so there was I think for a moment there was a sense of like, you guys have got to rewrite some of the show.
Well, that.
And then then they basically decided that air it at 9 o'clock as close to the Watershed as possible. And then everyone sort of calmed down. I think
the other issue was you couldn't have references to suicide.
that was it.
And you
lady jumping out of the window.
Well, no, it was weirdly that one wasn't. It was I'm going to drown myself in the lake.
Yeah.
And we were like, he's dead.
yeah.
So it's not suicide.
That's the joke.
Is that how you got around it?
Yeah.
Well, that was the joke. And they were like, no, but it's still a suicide reference. Some of these conversations can feel quite kind of
Surreal.
Yeah, I mean, really.
How bloody will the stump be? Will you see the windpipe? No, it will look like a kind of overcooked pizza. Yeah. Right. Is there bone? There is no bone. It's a lot of conversations like that.
Good grief. Well, I think it's so fascinating. One of my favorite parts of any sort of creative process, whether it's music or whether it's a show like this, is seeing an early incarnation compared to what we see at the end. And obviously, in preparation for this, I was reading through this, but also went back and watched a lot of the final season. And it sort of made me wonder how you wanted to approach ending, something like that. We sort of touched on that briefly at the beginning of the panel. But for instance, you had probably quite a lot of avenues open of ways to end it. The one you chose was sort of letting them, spoilers, I guess. You're all fans, surely. Has anyone not seen it?
Has anyone not seen the very... There was one hand went up there.
Oh.
Are you joking?
Okay, there are a couple of hands, so I'll say it ends the way it ends.
Yeah.
Why didn't you end it not that way? I'm good at this. Words are my tool. So basically, I was wondering why. So, for instance, we've had a lot of the characters sort of ascend or move on to another life. Was there part of you that considered just having all of them do that, or did you go maybe that's too easy, or maybe that's too, I don't know?
Yeah, I guess for a moment you're sort of just considering any possibilities, and I guess the basis on which you make any writing choices is if it satisfies you, then hopefully it will satisfy the audience. And we love these characters and we love this show, and so we felt like if we can find something that feels profound and not trivial, and if it happens to be a twist, great, as long as it's not, as I say, superficial, like a twist for a twist's sake or something like that. So if that had been that they all ascend and that had felt like it came from an idea that, you know, that had some depth and meaning to it, then it would have been that. But in the end, the thing that felt like it had depth and meaning was much more sort of human. And in a way, the reason that felt perfect is from the get-go, having had this high concept idea about ghosts, it immediately started showing us as an idea that it was really just about people. And it was really just, it was their situation as dead people was really just a metaphor for our situation as people. Like, what are we doing here? We've all got different ideas about that. What happens when you die? We've all got different ideas about that. You know, we all have different beliefs, different politics, etc., etc., etc. But the one thing that we have in common is we're stuck here, and none of us really has the answer.
So cheers, everyone. Thanks for coming.
And that's a comedy.
I think as well, we'd kind of from really early on set the rule of going, there is no rule to rhyme or reason to when you go, and then we kind of followed through on that with Mary departing. Sorry, still a standing apology.
Is that
for
a boo?
And there was no sort of quid pro quo where you could go, if I do good deed, I get to ascend. So I think we would have had to really get our crowbars out to go, there is a way in which we can engineer a bit of story where all the ghosts get to move on. And so we kind of wanted to stay true to those sort of story convictions. But it also meant, because there was an expectation there, our impetus is always if there's an expectation to try and confound it. But it meant we could also do an episode where Robin comes up and goes, I've worked it out, someone's leaving, and you kind of get to play with that expectation as well. So we sort of slightly got to have our cake and eat it.
To bring it back onto this, because I'm good at my job, in this, you guys talk about how you feel, in a sense, that you had to end it in season 5 because of the nature of the fact that season 5 is where you cover a lot of the backstories of some of the ghosts who we actually don't know how they died throughout the other 4 seasons. So because you'd sort of had that payoff, did you sort of feel almost an obligation to bring it to a close, or do you feel you could even have gone on for a couple more seasons if it felt right?
It was one of the reasons why it felt like there was a sense of completeness at that point. I should say, actually, it was more that in advance of that, we hadn't made a hard decision, but we had began even as early as series 2 to be thinking, it feels like 5 would be the point at which we've done all of those stories, and if we're still going strong at that point, then we should probably cut our losses and get out while the going's good.
Well, you actually said in the book yourself that most good comedy series get 2 or 3. So the fact that we've had 5 seasons and people loved it the whole time is a blessing.
It felt like the most extraordinary compliment that you could be paid, that anyone was even questioning a show finishing after 5 series. Yeah. It's amazing to me, because I think, as I say, many of the great shows have been sort of 2. And
my favourite thing was when that was happening, talking to anyone in production in America. And we're like, yeah, we're ending the show. And they were like, what?
Yeah.
You haven't done 17 series. They thought there were people who were like, that this is amazing, it's absolutely the right thing to do, and then people who were just like, you're so insane. It was a very, very much divided opinion, but yeah, it felt, that was definitely one of the reasons that to not have those backstories to explore, you would slightly change the format, and then do you start making a slightly different show, I suppose.
Because, like you say, you have those backstories to explore in a lot of things, and that's sort of the lore, if you would, of the show. But you also have your week-by-week plot lines. And it's interesting how even early on you were coming up with ideas of that. Guy trying to engineer the perfect date with the nanny, but everywhere they try, they get interrupted. Loads of just ideas that you guys have for the stories of the week. And it's so, I like that you laugh when you hear these back, because you're like, gosh, it's all coming back. But this is why books like this are really, really cool, because you just get to see all these things. You guys all know the show so well, and you're seeing how all these seeds were sort of planted. And I find it all very interesting of how, you guys were already very experienced writers and performers by then. And all of that's just sort of come together in this idea, even from the get-go. So what's the natural process like from say, this initial, I don't want to call this brain dump, because it's far more organized than that, but...
No, I think brain dump's great.
Okay. Yeah. How do you get from brain dump to a pilot, for instance?
It's I suppose over the years, I've come to sort of trust that the process of just rewriting will always guide you towards something that is just so much better than whatever it is that you start with, and you just have to trust it. If there is a kernel of something exciting in there, every new thing you may have written things before, but you haven't written this thing before. So there's always this period of time where you're having to kind of learn how to write it. Yeah, I think sort of you throw something down, you try and turn off the voice in your head that's saying, that's not as good as everything you've done before, that's not very good, that's not very good, that's not very good. Until you've just got something to then go back over. And the great thing about writing in a group is that I find, anyway, I'm much more able to get past that sort of self-censoring negative voice and get a first draft done.
I find that I've got a voice in my head going, that's brilliant, that's brilliant, that's brilliant. And then I show it to the others and I'm like, what's wrong with them? Actually, you feel so comforted in going, this is going to go around the table and a group of proper comedy brains will look at it and find things and refine things. And the thing you knew only half worked and you thought you got away with will get picked up and improved. And you know that it's not always the case that the best version of the script, the best draft is the one you end up with.
Right.
Sometimes, draft 6 was great, and then other factors come in, and you end up at draft 9, and it's fine. It was really comforting to know that the draft that you got to, where everyone went, yeah, that's it, it's the best version of that story.
Is it a democracy when it comes to someone suggest a joke and 3 like it, 3 don't, or something?
It's rarely that. Like, that is very rarely happens, because we are all very much of one mind in many ways. But it is a democracy in terms of road testing ideas or proposing. I think more commonly it would be proposing the solution to a story problem. That would be the thing where you'd have debate. Because that sort of is the process of writing. Your first draft gives you loads of problems. Everyone reads the first draft and goes, well, hang on, if they've done this, then actually there's a plot hole here, because how did they end up in that room if they've been, and then you all sit around and scratch your heads and come up with different solutions and then argue those solutions. And it's a democracy in the sense that it rarely gets to the point of voting. I can't remember us ever having to do that. But just one argument tends to gradually win, often to the point where it's won the person who's arguing against it, and then eventually, usually me, goes,
Fine.
No, you're right. You're
going to
right.
do it anyway,
Right.
clearly.
Are there eureka moments sometimes when there's a bunch of ideas floating around and they're all on the maybe pile?
Oh, yeah.
And then that one idea
That's the joy, when suddenly you get that moment where someone goes, what if? And you go, yes, of course, yeah, it's that. And it unlocks something. Those are the best bit about all being around the table.
Absolutely. And it is that lovely thing, especially when you're writing a series, and especially if you've had 2 series commissioned in advance, which we always did after the first one, is that when an idea is something everyone loves, but it's not fitting into the story, it just won't sit there. You have that absolute luxury of being able to go, it will find its place, put it back on that pile. At some point, we'll be writing another episode, and we'll go, this is where Lady Button can have an affair with Humphrey's body without Humphrey's head, or whatever it may be.
I love
a
that.
jigsaw piece for a jigsaw you haven't bought yet.
Yes, exactly. That's
Wow.
a really good analogy.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You can have that for a future.
Thank you.
What the hell am I kidding?
Well, I remember one of the things in the original pitch was the ghost of a neighbour who lives next door who they all want to befriend.
Yes,
And then that ended up being a kind of an episode of a week. In that series 3?
Series 4,
Series 4,
yeah.
with Rich Glover, So it all sort of goes in the drawer, and then suddenly you find somewhere where it's a better fit, and it's pulled out and dusted off.
Yeah.
I think it's real testament to your guys' abilities to write all these ideas and just have them in a bustling hive that might just sort of get pulled out and dropped into an episode.
It's
and
also
it just
a testament to Google Docs.
Now, just one thing, in a couple of minutes, we're going to be coming out to allowing you guys to come up and ask some questions. You guys can see in the middle of these aisles, there are some microphones. They've now got lights on them, like they're lit from above, like musical theatre. So if you guys do want to ask questions, just have a think now, because I'll come to you guys in 2 or 3 minutes. Have a think about what you want to ask, come up, and then we'll start working our way through those questions. Try and get to as many of you guys as we can. You can come up and ask anything about the book, about the show, about our wonderful actors up here. But you've got a couple of minutes to think about that just now before you come up. So a couple of questions I'd like to ask before we finish, because this book goes season by season, episode by episode, in beautiful detail, hearing these ideas all of you had and your thoughts on it. This is a bit like asking your favourite children, but do you guys have a personal favourite season at all?
That's really tricky. I think typically with shows, it tends to be like series 2 or 3 where you know what it is, but there's still that real drive and enthusiasm. It still feels new, but I remember I love that idea, the Lady Button having an affair with Humphrey's body but not the head. I really love that. But the thing that always sticks with me when I'm asked this question is seeing the script for episode 3 in the first series, and there was some really good, funny stuff in it, and then having the moment where Pat's family turn up and sort of seeing suddenly that settling for me what the tone of the show was, and there was enough funny in it to give you license to do those moments of sort of drama and emotion, more so than we'd done in what we'd done before.
I think I'll go for series 3, because we were in the middle of the pandemic, and it was just such amazing privilege to be able to continue to work, and so lovely to be together and making each other laugh in amongst just the maddest time that I can ever remember. Jess Knappett was so great. She felt like she really was a kind of another member of the gang for that series. I just have really fond memories of that one, but all of them.
I remember yesterday turning up, one of those memories I'd completely forgotten, and I was sort of like, I thought I was pretty fine through all of that weird time, and turning up on set, and I'd driven up, because obviously we couldn't have drivers and couldn't get trains and any of those things. I'd driven up from Brighton, and I got there before anyone else on set, and I saw everyone's names on the doors of our little three-way hutches, and I cried. And I wasn't aware that I was even, I was just like, it was just so nice, that sense of like, oh, I'm going to go somewhere and all my mates are here.
Yeah.
And it was a really difficult series to shoot, technically, but so nice to sort of, be around each other.
Yeah.
You guys do actually go into filming in the pandemic in the book as well, don't you?
Yeah.
No stone is left unturned in this book, so you guys need to make sure you get your hands on it as well. But before we go over to other people as well, you guys are doing book signings for this as well, is that right?
I believe so, yeah.
So guys, make sure you guys do go down and, try and grab as many opportunities as you can. We might be giving a bit much time to this, but I could honestly sit and talk with you guys about this show and your thoughts on it.
We'll do it after, it's fine.
Yeah, we'll just go sit and we'll grab a coffee and just talk. But guys, honestly, it's such a pleasure to talk to you guys. Thank you so much for joining us on the panel, and good luck with the book launching and everything that you guys do in the future. And congratulations on the BAFTA as well, because that's so exciting. But it is now time for us to come over to you guys, the wonderful community, and we're going to try and go through. Hopefully we can get through everyone. I'm sorry if we don't get to you people who unfortunately are a bit further back in the queue, but we are going to try and get to as many of your questions as we can. So, someone pick left or right.
Well, I'd always go left.
We're coming over to you. Hello. What is your name and what is your question?
My name is Tegan. Lovely to meet you guys.
Hi, Tegan.
My question is, what's your favourite era of history, and do you have a favourite fun fact from that time period?
I love the Victorians. I adore William Buckland, who sort of got hold of the wrong end of the stick with the passage in the Bible and decided that it was his duty to God to try and eat everything. And then when he died, his son took over, which is even madder. Apparently, dormouse on toast, delicious. Blue bottles, as horrible as you would expect.
I too love the Victorians, mainly because of the facial hair arrangements that they came up with.
Well, only him.
No, you look good too, don't worry.
Thank you. Thank you for,
well
for
said,
you.
Tegan.
I'm thanking you. Thank you on behalf of Larry. What's a fact? That some Victorians were apparently... I didn't even believe this when we shot a sketch based around it, and I'm still not sure I do, but that apparently some Victorians were so prudish, they referred to trousers as the southern necessities.
Oh, yeah.
I remember that song from the Jungle Book. I'm going to start calling them that now. We need to bring that back. That's great. But Tegan, thank you so much for your question.
Thank you, Tegan.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Okay, now we're going to swing over to the right. Hello, what is your name? What is your question?
Hi, I'm Alex. My question is, how did your views on death shape the way you wrote the show? And did writing the show then change your views on death?
I mean, I've always been a huge fan. I don't know. Do you want to go?
It's a really, really good question. Of course they shaped the show, and I think that decision early on about deciding rules around why some people end up as ghosts haunting this place, and why some people go straight up and so on, it came from that thinking that we wanted to be honest about the fact that there are several world religions that disagree about this stuff, that anyone watching the show may have their own beliefs, and to sort of suggest that we have answers would be crazy, and sort of just a bit trite and superficial to say, oh, ghosts stick around because of unfinished business, or you get to go to heaven if you finish your unfinished business, or whatever. I think in the end writing the show made us reflect a lot on not necessarily death itself, but grief.
Yeah.
And it's lovely that, we we had not decided that we were going to have a character exit, and we wouldn't have made that decision. But having someone decide to leave the show allowed us finally to write an episode specifically about grief. And I guess we'd been thinking about it. It was adjacent to so many of the stories and things that we'd done up to that point that we were really, really ready to do a whole episode that sort of took that on. So I definitely think making this show made me think a lot about death. And I really do believe that it's not just sort of negative and morbid and dark to think about death. If you can really...
Yeah, it's fun.
If you can really sort of face the truth of it, then you can experience joy in a very complete way, you know. And losing someone and feeling grief is about love, actually. It reminds you that you really, really loved someone, to feel that pain when you lose them. So, you know, there are beautiful and positive things around that too. Thank you. Such a good question.
Thank you for your question. We're now going to flip over to this side. Hello, what is your name? What is your question?
Hi, my name's Harry, and I'm going to follow that up with the most basic question.
Yes.
So, thank you for Ghosts, and particularly thank you for Horrible Histories, because that meant a lot to me growing up, and I think a lot of people would agree. Specifically, how did Horrible Histories come to be, and was it the 6 of you and then the show, or the show and then the 6 of you?
No, I was at the same agent as Steve Punt, who they really wanted to write on the show when it was being developed. And my agent, being a good agent, went, we've got some other guys here who write sketches. And so I sort of started on it as a writer, and because a couple of the sketches that I'd written were then used in the audition process.
Right.
So and there was a break of about a year during development. So I started to write the first sketches in like 2007. And then it took a couple of years before production geared up in the end. And then it was, the rest of the cast came through a process of casting. I then went, can I also be considered for this? And went in for casting, and I did a terrible job. And they basically went, they didn't say, you messed that up. I knew. But they were like, the makeup changes are such that this probably isn't going to work. At some point, Matt's going to need an hour to change his beard. So then we can wheel Larry in. And so I kind of...
You did an audition?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
I did an audition with one of the sketches that I'd written. And then Dominic, the director, gave a note, and I went, I don't think it is that. It was...
That's always
really
how you
good
get
idea.
the job.
That's how you get
Contradict the director.
But yeah, it was then... So the rest of the cast came into it, and I kind of slowly bled into that cast across series 1, because I was very, very willing to put on fake facial hair, really. But it was seeing the rest of the cast performing things and going from, why are they doing it like that, to, informed all the writing going forward. So I think a lot of the tone of the show came from the cocktail of actors who were brought into the main cast.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, great question as well. Did I have anything to add to that? Maybe not. I don't know. We just auditioned. When you say the 6 of us, that was not necessarily, we emerged as a sort of group, I suppose, across the 5 series that we'd done, because there were other performers who came and went, and it sort of just so happened that we were the core 6 who kind of stayed across those. Although actually even Simon sort of disappeared in the middle there somewhere. True to form.
Simon began by disappearing. I think in series 1 he only did 2 weeks, but he makes such an indelible impression.
Yeah.
That it was like he was there for the whole thing.
Yeah, funny.
Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you very much. Right, we're going to bounce over to the right and go. Hello, what is your name? What is your question?
Hello, my name's Natalie. My question is, what was your favourite room to film in West Horsley Place?
Oh, favourite room.
I loved the library, which isn't really called the library. It's called something else, isn't it? Anyway, the downstairs library, not the little one upstairs, not the Charlotte room or whatever that is. There was so many interesting knickknacks in there, and it's such a beautiful room, and it was so multi-purpose. The number of the historical flashbacks where we were able to utilise that space as well. And I always remember that the scene we did with me, you and Jim, sort of where we were talking about loss. It was really early on, sat on that bench
in
seat
that
there.
episode, yeah.
And the fact it's sort of 2 rooms in one, and it was a little communal area for the ghosts, and it was Mike's office, and it was, you know, where Kitty's father told her off. It became so many like key spaces. It was, it's a lovely, lovely setting.
The ballroom the ballroom is always lovely because it tends to be group scenes in there. So a lot of the happiest memories are there because there's much more of a kind of sense of hanging out with your mates. I always quite liked, though, there's a little sort of weird little attic-y room where Thomas tries to go cold turkey. There's only a few scenes that we ever shot in there, and it was really cold and not much room to put the camera in and stuff, but just the novelty of being in another weird little corner of the house, for some reason that sticks out.
We kept finding those. I remember we ended up putting it as a plot in the story, but on like series 3, me heading into the library and going, guys, there's a walk-in safe. No, we just hadn't turned that way and had never found it. And we're like, Mike should totally, after living there for 3 years, find out there's a walk-in safe he never knew about.
Yeah.
There's still parts of the house that they haven't discovered yet.
Yeah, there were loads of places that we would have liked to have filmed, but it wasn't safe to do so as well. So I remember there's halfway up the Tudor stairs, there was always a sign saying, "Don't go beyond this point." Yeah. I always remember thinking, what's back there? Imagine the stuff we could write.
They're making another TV show.
That's where the American version of goes. It's a portal to America.
Hey guys, we're on season 28.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your question. We're going to now flip over to the left. Hello, what is your name? What is your question?
Hi, my name is Joel. Firstly, I do want to apologise. I'm the guy that put their hand up. I haven't seen Ghosts. It's on my watch list.
Get out.
Wow.
I'm sorry. But I'm here as a huge Horrible Histories fan, and I want to thank you for getting me to pass my GCSEs. So thank you very much for that.
No worries.
And my question is there an era of history that you kind of wished, or even a character from history you wished you had done a sketch on? You kind of look back and go, oh, that had been really cool. We could have done like this.
Ooh.
That is a very good question.
Don't just talk about it, rap about it.
Or do another series, that's fine by me as well.
Yeah. Is there one that you think of?
I mean, I'm in a massive Cold War, I love social aspects of history.
Oh, yeah,
I feel like there's so many funny,
we did actually do some sketches about the Cold War, but there's one that springs to mind that pops up in one of the outtakes reels that I don't think it even aired.
I think, was it the one where we all did something really stupid? We all did it really big.
I mean,
or was that something else? Oh, that was all of them.
Yeah, that doesn't narrow it down.
Cryptic and general.
That silly sketch we did,
you know, where it was really fun.
Yeah, I can't think of one. Sorry, it's a really disappointing answer, but I can't think of one. No.
I love her sauce.
Well, I'm sorry. If one comes up, maybe that will get answered again in the next 10 minutes.
That's the thing.
If you leave your number about 3 o'clock in the morning, I will suddenly go, Einstein!
Thank you very much for your question, though. Okay, we have 11 minutes left, so we might still be able to get through a few more people.
We'll answer really quickly.
Hello, what is your name and what is your question?
Yeah, hi, I'm Han, and I just want you guys to know that I love you so much, and BBC Ghosts means the world to me. And I'm from Germany, and I'm excited for the German version.
Yes,
Yes, and I wanted to ask you guys, what do you love most about your characters? And like for me, I love Robin. I love how wise he is. He makes me cry so much. The moon scene, I could bawl my eyes out every time. And with Thomas, I cry, but from laughing. I'm going to drown myself in the lake. I quote that every day. So, yeah, what do you love most about your characters?
You've sort of touched on it for me. Thomas is so great to play because he's completely uninhibited. Every reaction is sort of turned up to 11. I always loved the opportunities for him, because there's often opportunities for him to be angry or heartbroken or disappointed. But every now and again, there's opportunities for him to be really enthusiastic about something. I remember there's an early episode where he decides he's going to write a best-selling piece of erotic fiction. Because obviously he must have roughly heard about 50 Shades of Grey through Alison and Mike and thought, well, that's how I can make millions for the house. And he's so enthusiastic about it. And he thinks that just saying that a scene is set in a car makes it modern. So I really enjoyed those enthusiastic moments with him.
I think with Robin, it's the fact that normally you have to sort of commit to a sort of high status or low status character, and the fact that he flitted so much between the two, and sometimes it was like he was the family dog and sort of bullied and kicked around, and other times he was so smart and you never really knew what you were going to get in any situation. You don't really get to play characters like that. And he didn't have a lot of lines to learn, which apparently the actor enjoyed.
Thank you.
You also had with Robin in the pilot, he had a chess rival who was a monk played by Ben.
Yeah, played by Ben.
That never came back, did it?
Simon ended up filling in that role when we stopped we stopped doing it multi-character, stopped chasing down that idea. So Julian became his chess nemesis. Yeah.
Great pictures of Ben dressed as a monk, by the way. Thank you very much for your question. We're going to come over to the left. Hello, what is your name? What is your question?
Hello, my name is Rosie. This question actually comes from my dad, who only refers to the moon as Moonastone now. So thank you for that. Our question is, were there any movements or lines that were completely made up on the spot by any of the cast that were so good that you had to keep them in? Or perhaps any improvised lines that you wish had made it in that they cut out?
So much of Simon as Julian, often how he would say a line, there's quite a lot of them in the show, but there were definitely more that weren't. The improvised one that always stuck with me was Jim and Charlotte, and there's a moment where they're talking about, I think it's the captain going, he can't improve. He's trying to get fitter, and they're like, he can't, he's dead. And then Jim just went, you're going to die soon. Sorry. And it just really made me laugh, and it was completely in the moment. And Charlotte just looked so upset. Yeah, lovely little moments like that.
Was just a couple of guys in the library.
Oh, that was...
Was that improvised? That's when Julian and the captain are sort of, what are they up to? They're up to something, I can't remember what, but they try and act casual, and they say the least casual possible thing you could say, which is, we're just a couple of guys in the library. Another one that springs to mind is Jim. It's often going to be Jim. When Alison tries to trick him with the severed finger trick, and he's seen and heard it all before, we really amused ourselves with the idea that he would do this reference to a film that most of our audience probably have never seen, called Dead Man's Shoes, in which Paddy Considine is terrifying, and in particular in a moment where he holds out his hand and says to this guy, "You're there." And that was all that was scripted, and we thought that's a funny little homage for anyone who knows that film. But then Jim goes... Not only does he mime eating it, he then swallows it, sticks out his tongue to show that it's not still in his mouth, and shimmies out of shot. And it still amazes me to this day that is not an outtake. That's in the show.
That is my favourite scene from the whole show, I can't.
Well, there you go. I mean, so basically, after pointing at his hand, none of that was in the script.
I love
and he just did it all.
There's like 5 brilliant details in it as well. Also, when he's eating it, he holds his finger up like going, wait a second.
I mean,
I remember being at the monitor going like this.
What's he doing? And and the answer usually is he's just trying to make Charlotte laugh. I don't know if he was sort of serious about, I really want all of these beats to be in this take. I don't know. We'd have to ask him. But it's there.
Thank you.
That's a great question. Thank you so much. Now over to the right. Hello, what is your name? What is your question?
Hello, I'm Jane. My question is, you talked a moment ago about ideas for sketches, that some of which got in there and some didn't. What were your favourite ideas that never actually made it into the show?
Great question and great costume. Damn your eyes. What never made it in? I mean, as Larry said, the neighbour ended up making it in a different form, But when we were storylining the first series, the idea was that in every single episode, there'd be a moment where you just cut to a guy who is haunting a field where a house used to be. And that really tickled me.
Yeah.
That
You only ever saw him very small in frame, and he go, all
just
right.
in the distance, just like hoping to have a, guys, maybe tomorrow. Just lonely guy in a field.
There was a line I remember that we cut where the ghosts really early on were rushing out. Oh, it's when Alison is opening the newly restored doors. There was a scene where they were doing a ribbon cutting ceremony that didn't make it, and all the ghosts were rushing out there to see it. And Julian moves out the way of Robin and goes, "Oh, age before beauty," and Robin goes, "I'm 23." And I really loved it. We put it in the last book, actually, in the timeline, but I love the idea that the canon of the show, Robin is 23.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to flip back over to the left. Hello, what is your name? What is your question?
Hi there, I'm Lizzie, and I was just wondering if you could play any other character, be it in UK Ghosts or US Ghosts, because we know that Matt played Pete in the US version, who would it be and why?
I think there were always moments in scenes where you'd see someone having fun and go, "Oh, that would be a laugh." There were always moments with Julian that I was very just jealous of. I was like, "That's a really fun bit to do." But I think it would have been fun in that moment. But I think there was a real sense where we all found the little hole in which our particular peg fitted.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of remarkable that there isn't an obvious answer. Because in Horrible Histories, we would have part jealousy every single day. There were so many great parts, and you just had to accept that you couldn't play them all. But yeah, with Ghosts, I never felt that. And especially because we did end up being able to scratch the multi-character itch with the Plague Gang. Otherwise, I would have felt like, that looks like so much fun. I wish I was having that fun. But we wrote it, so we got to give ourselves those parts.
Whereas in Horrible Histories, I can tell you what it was, which was at the beginning of every season, a producer would go, "Larry, this series, you've got your own king and your own song."
Oh, man. Thank you very much for your question.
Thank
We
you.
only have a minute and 30 seconds left, so we're going to try and rapid fire if we can. Hello, what is your name? What is your question?
Hi, I'm Dylan. My question is actually, was Thomas always meant to be Scottish? Because it's never brought up.
No, it's a good question. When we did the first Damn Your Eyes in episode 1, Tom Kingsley, the director, told me to do it bigger, which I couldn't believe because it was already very, very big. And the Damn Your Eyes that came out, we all laughed about the fact I sounded Scottish. And that was the seed. And I think we talked about it even then, was like, maybe he is Scottish, but you can only tell when he's really, really angry. And also, another sort of thing we've talked about often, weirdly, is how many people you meet who are posh English people who then turn out to be Scottish. There's no sign of it until you see them in a kilt at a wedding. And you're like, oh, didn't know you were Scottish. So that, yeah, it was an idea early on.
Thank you.
Wonderful. And we're going to try and do this one super quick. Hello, what is your name? What is your question?
Hi, I'm Asha, and my question is, what is your favourite Ghosts headcanon?
Say again?
Your favourite ghost's head canon.
Yeah, so like
Headcanon?
like what the fans might say your character
Have I
does
just
in their spare
outed
time or
myself as a sort of middle-aged man who doesn't know terminology?
So, for instance, in the penultimate episode,
Right.
Go
on.
You guys sort of on. Yes, you guys, revealed some of the suggestion of the sexuality of the captain and stuff. But prior to that, it was all theories in the fandom's heads, head canon, because it's in their head. So, do you guys have a thing that you didn't actually refer to in the series that you suddenly go, "We are 30 seconds over time"? By the way, I'm so sorry. I've spent your question explaining what head canon is to these old bastards.
Larry's got one.
Oh no, I was just showing that I understood the question.
Right. Okay, we've all understood the question, and none of us have an answer. But don't let that feel like an anticlimax.
Buy the book today. It's available. Thank you so
sorry.
much for your question. And thank you. I'm so sorry to everyone we didn't get to. But guys, give it up for the amazing Mathew Baynton and Larry Rickard.
Bye.